Namaste. Welcome to this session. Uh, we were dealing with the Panchakosha concept, in which we had a brief introduction to and very preliminary introduction to information about Annamaya Kosha and then Pranamaya Kosha. And the Manomaya Kosha we had also touched upon towards the end of the last session. The Manomaya Kosha, as I said, has usually single entry there. Our karmas enter into Manomaya Kosha. They are called Kriyamana karmas. And some of the karmas which you do in this life are not going to fructify in this very life. So some of the karmas are not going to fructify during the lifetime. They are going to fructify in prospective lives or our incarnations. And then such karmas need to go to latent deposit accounts. They need to go to Manomaya Kosha. If the karmas are going to fructify here itself, then they don't have to go to Manomaya Kosha. Therefore, as a matter of fact, all karmas are going to leave some impressions. The karmas are of, there are several types of karmas. Functional classification to be considered here. Here we have karmas which are going to turn out fruits. And the fruits which are going to turn out karmas. It is not that the karma ends with the fruition. The karmas don't end with fruition. The fruition itself turns out certain vasanas, certain tendencies. They leave certain impressions. And therefore it is a structure. Karma, karma phala. Karma, karma phala. Karma, karma phala. Karma, karma phala. So the prarabdha karma, the destiny, which has been actualized in this life, still creates some impressions in our mind. There are reactions to receiving the fruits. When we receive the fruits of our karmas, when we experience something in destiny, it doesn't end with the experience. The experience creates certain impressions, and therefore it goes to Manomaya Kosha, because that again is a potential for karma, potential for activity subsequently. So all the karmas actually go to Manomaya Kosha, because all the karmas, even karmas of the nature of fructification. That's why this term karma should be understood. Many times we say, when you are doing something, you say I am doing a karma. When you are facing consequences, the destiny is being experienced, again you say this is my karma. That means fruition is also karma. And we refer to fruition as our karma. Suppose you have a lot of ill luck in your life. So you say, and you are experiencing ill luck. You are undergoing ill luck. You say, this is my karma. Now actually that is fruition. That's a fruit. Or in case of good luck, if you are experiencing fortunes, again we refer to that, this is my karma. So actually we are experiencing fruition. So fruition is also a kind of karma. And it should not be creating confusion to say action is also karma and fruition is also karma. Because fruition is going to leave impressions, fruition is going to create reactions in us. We are going to react to fruits. Whether delightful fruit or sorrowful fruit, we are going to react to it. So the reaction is going to create impressions, which is again activity potential. So this needs to be understood that action is karma and fruition is also karma, because fruition is potentially a karma. By fruition, we again commit to certain karmas. If you have success, the fruit coming in the form of success or happiness, because you are happy, you are developing certain tendencies to be doing something. We react to happiness, we react to sorrows, we react to pains and pleasures, we react to fortunes and misfortunes. We don't not react. So therefore there is activity potential even in fruition. So therefore that is also a potential karma. So some of the karmas we get fructification in this very life. We don't have to wait for next life or prospective lives. We get the fruition here and now, that is in this life itself. In another classification of karma, these are called sopakrama karma. That means the karma commences with the fruition itself, and the karma is going to bear out fruits here itself. But some of the karmas are such that they are not going to fructify during the lifetime. You will have to wait for another incarnation for the fructification of those karmas. So that is another kind of karma called nirupakrama karma. And these karmas need to go to Manomaya Kosha. Those karmas too need to go to Manomaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha, as the inward gate, is always open. All our karmas are going to reach Manomaya Kosha. Whether it is casual karma or intentfully done karma, weak karma, strong karma, karma done on one's own will, or karma done because of some slavery, every karma is going to reach Manomaya Kosha. So Manomaya Kosha is open to be receiving all karmas that we commit during the lifetime. But the outward gate of the Manomaya Kosha is generally sealed for weak commoners, as I said. In exceptional cases, it will work. But generally, it doesn't have there is no outward clerk in Manomaya Kosha. It is not needed. Outward clerk is not needed. Outward administration is not needed. But inward clerk, inward administration is needed. So that is peculiarity of Manomaya Kosha. And another distinctive factor, that Annamaya is going to end with the death. However, the impressions will have gone to Manomaya Kosha. The Pranamaya Kosha is also going to end on the point of death. However, whatever activities the Pranamaya Kosha has generated is going to go to Manomaya Kosha. But we will leave behind Pranamaya Kosha and Manomaya Kosha here. It will be reconstituted, it will be renewed, as a matter of fact. We don't have to carry any matter of the body and any matter of the mind when we transmigrate. What has to be carried forward goes in some form to Manomaya Kosha, and then it transmigrates from there. So Annamaya, Pranamaya Koshas do not transmigrate. Manomaya Kosha transmigrates. And Manomaya Kosha, this term Manas in Indian philosophical system should not be equated with the mind of modern psychology, because modern psychology also calls something as mind. But that mind doesn't have much depth. They have conscious mind and subconscious mind. And subconscious mind is also not very deep. That's why the modern psychology has no clue to the fact and reality that each being has traversed 8.4 million life classes. Modern psychology has no clue to this. Yet it is not with conviction saying about life after death, or life before life. But this manas concept in Indian philosophy is oceanic. The manas concept, mind concept in modern psychology is just a shallow pond. Anyway, so the Manomaya Kosha will be having infrastructure for birth in any of the 8.4 life classes. We have been through all those 8.4 million life classes, and we can perhaps prospectively go to all those 8.4 million life classes after having been human being. We have been human beings umpteen number of times. We have been tiny creatures, tiny insects, microscopic life umpteen number of times. We have been elephants, we have been gods, we have been celestial beings, we have been infernal beings. We have gone through all these 8.4 million, circumscribe all those yonis, all those life classes, celestial, infernal, terrestrial. So the Manomaya Kosha will have the blueprint of every manifestation. It's not that next life we will be essentially and necessarily human beings, nor our previous life we were essentially and necessarily human beings. We could have been any other being as well. So the Manomaya Kosha has enormous blueprints and even molds for all the life classes through which the self traverses and transmigrates. So it's enormous Manomaya Kosha. Like when the pronoun I, see, you and me will claim I am human being. Nobody will doubt that we are human beings. But the I in us, is mysterious. The I in us has all 8.4 yoni impressions. The I has traveled through all those 8.4 yonis. The I in us, in the statement I am human being, the I has gone through all that, and I is composed of all the psyches, identity psyches of 8.4 million life species. So in our I, there is ant to elephant, microscopic worm, insect to whale in ocean, because whale is said to be the largest creature on the planet, not the elephant. So Manomaya Kosha houses all those. So it's really fabulous. And this Manomaya should not be mistaken to mind again. In the sense we understand empirical mind, temporal mind, cerebral mind, cerebrocortical mind, psychological mind, psychomental mind. It has ocean depth. So that is introductory information about the Manomaya Kosha. Then comes Vijnanamaya Kosha. And at this point, let me make it clear that in Adhyatma, we have these concepts of koshas, and each of these 5 koshas are also Atma, because each kosha is complete, is Purna. Annamaya is Purna, Pranamaya is Purna, Manomaya is Purna, Vijnanamaya is Purna, Anandamaya is Purna. That is complete in us. These are not layer over layer over layer over layer over layer. Because usually it is construed like that, just as we have, sometimes we wear underwear, undergarment, then we put on some shirt, etc. Then we have coats and overcoats and overcoats. Suppose it is winter, sub-zero temperatures. How many clothes you'll be wearing on your body? It's not just one. From undergarment, underwear to the outermost one. Several layers. So it is imagined that these are koshas, one inside the other. That Annamaya is housing Pranamaya inside it. Pranamaya is housing the Manomaya inside it. Manomaya is housing Vijnanamaya inside it. Vijnanamaya is housing Anandamaya inside it. So these are not 5 layers. These are not 5 layers. They are also called Atma, particularly when this topic primarily comes in Taittiriya Upanishad of Taittiriya Aranyaka. It is referred to as Annamayatma, Pranamayatma, Manomayatma, Vijnanamayatma, Anandamayatma. Now, for we mortals and so materialistic mortals, even we think that we are very spiritual seekers and spiritual practitioners and spiritual minded, we are all pseudo-spiritual minded. We are all Annamaya. Our pronoun I, if you ask, put a question to yourself, who am I? You will say, I am this body. I am this caste, class, creed, gender, status, stature, etc., etc., etc. This is what we will be giving you as your biodata. This is what you are. It is all Annamaya. So when we point out at oneself, we say this is me. We are pointing at our Annamaya, body and mind. So there is Annamayatma, Pranamayatma, Vijnanamayatma, Manomayatma, and then Vijnanamayatma. In Taittiriya Upanishad, after the 3 are mentioned, when it comes to 4th, it begins with a pratigna statement, opening statement. Both the 4th and 5th, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, it commences. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. That you cannot be reaching it for comprehension's sake. Even if you go with your senses and with your mind, they will come back not attaining it. So they will fail in their mission to understand Vijnanamayatma and Anandamayatma. That's why Yato Vacho Nivartante Yaprapya Manasasaha. Along with mind, they will all return empty-handed. So you can't carry out that pursuit with your own senses and your intelligence and your mind and whatever senses you have, grosser or subtler. You can't really explore. They will come empty-handed, because these are metaphysical zones. So the Vijnanamaya Kosha is the Kosha of Vijnanamayatma. Who is this Vijnanamayatma? This is the metaphysical, finite individual self. And then Anandamayatma is infinite Paramatma, universal self. So Vijnanamayatma is metaphysical entity. Again, it should not be mistaken to Jnana. Vijnana word, if you read the text in a pedantic way, there are 2 schools of Yajurveda. White Yajurveda, the Krishna Yajurveda. And particularly in White Yajurveda, it has been clarified that Vijnanamayatma is Atma. Because where Vijnanamaya is described, In Kandva Shakha, the same passage is described as Atma in Madhyandin Shakha. And therefore, Vijnanamaya Atma is the real Atma, metaphysical Atma. No action reaches that Atma. This Atma creates no action. There is no karma coming out of the Vijnanamaya Atma. No action can reach Vijnanamaya Atma. So Vijnanamaya is a transcendent aspect where the karmas don't reach and from where the karmas don't come. Because metaphysically the entity is akarta, non-doer, abhokta, non-endurer. So all our delights and sorrows will remain only in the first three koshas: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya. Clemencies, inclemencies, delights, sorrows, ill luck, good luck, fortune, misfortune, they don't filter beyond Manomaya Kosha into Vijnanamaya Kosha. So Vijnanamaya Kosha is totally untouched by karma, karma samskars, karma vasanas, karma dynamics. That's why it is transcendent aspect. While the first three are totally under grip and gravity of karma. They receive karmas, they generate karmas, they induce karmas, they take stock of karmas. But metaphysical entity within us, what is called as self, essential self, that self is in a transcendent zone. Karmas do not percolate there, vasanas do not percolate there, samskars do not percolate there, nor do they ooze from there. No samskar will ooze from there. No vasana tendency will ooze from there. So all this oozing and seepage will take place in Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya. So Vijnanamaya has a unique status. And that is a metaphysical zone. Then, beyond the Vijnanamaya is Anandamaya. Anandamaya is the divinity zone within us. In all beings, the divinity is immanently there. Patanjali's Ishvara or Vedanta's Brahma, they are our antaryamis. They are our informers. They are our internal rulers. They are our innermost governors. So Anandamaya Atma is universal entity, the divinity, which is immanently in us, which is immanent as well as a transcendent principle. So that's called Antaryami, Antarniyamaka. Like in Bhagavad Gita, you get a quotation, Ishvara sarva bhutanam mruddeshe Arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat parashanti sthanam prapsasi shashvata. That is reference to the divinity immanent within us. So the Ishvara in Pancharatra and Ishvara which Patanjali has borrowed from Pancharatra speak about that Antaryami. Bhagavad Gita also uses the same term, Ishvara. That is the Antaryami. If you by surrendering to that Antaryami, one will reach the eternal abode from where one will not return. All sorrows will absolutely end. Whatsoever sorrow will absolutely end. That's called moksha pada. That's called salvation, emancipation, liberation, nirvana, moksha. So tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata. Tat prasadat parashanti sthanam prapsate shashvata. One will get infinite bliss, which is only available in that abode where one goes after liberation, and one will attain a eternal place, shashvata. That is moksha. Moksha pada is a shashvata pada. So the Anandamaya is the divinity aspect within us. Vijnanamaya is metaphysical self aspect within us. That is the real self. When there is the usage or expression of self-realization in philosophy and religion, the self-realization is realization of that Vijnanamaya Atma. And its atmosphere is called Vijnanamaya Kosha. Like our earth, if you speak about dimension of the earth, you will say this is the earth 7,000 odd miles of diameter, radius. And earth has atmosphere as well. We know that 200 miles above the surface of the earth, we have earth's atmosphere. So that is something like Prithvi Kosha. So the earth is there even above the ground, up to 200 miles in space. We have our atmosphere. So that is the Kosha. Prithvi Kosha. Layer of earth. Extends 200 miles above the surface of the crust. Our gravity works up to that extent. So similarly, Annamaya Kosha. Annamaya is this body. Annamaya Kosha is the whole atmosphere of as well. Pranamaya Kosha is chakras and pancha pranas. But then they have an atmosphere as well. That is Pranamaya Kosha. Then similarly Manomaya. And then it has Manomaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha. So there is a, atmosphere of it. Like a sun has 880 miles of diameter. But it has a huge corona. Sun has a huge corona which extends to something like 1 million miles. So that's sun's atmosphere. Similarly, there is atmosphere for these Atma. Annamaya Atma has an atmosphere. Both to put together is called Annamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Atma. Pranamaya Atma and its atmosphere put together is Pranamaya Kosha. Manomaya Atma and its atmosphere put together is Manomaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Atma and Vijnanamaya atmosphere is Vijnanamaya Kosha. And Anandamaya Atma and its atmosphere both put together is Anandamaya Kosh. Kosh, understand it as an atmosphere as well. So just as earth has an atmosphere, sun has an atmosphere. Every planet has an atmosphere. Every star has an atmosphere. So in case of sun, we speak about corona of the sun, which is not the body of the sun. The body of the sun ends. After the body of the sun ends, we have something called as corona of the sun. So it's something like atmosphere of the sun. And corona temperature is more than the body of the sun. Temperature of the body of the sun. The sun temperature is 6.5 thousand Kelvin. But corona temperature is in some thousands, more than a billion. The temperature there is more than some hundreds of thousands of degrees. The body of the sun has only 6.5 degrees of temperature, but the corona has some thousands of, 100,000s of degrees. So corona is hotter than the surface of the sun. And then of course the core of the sun is further hotter. the core of the sun temperature runs into some tens of millions of degrees. So similarly, the concept of kosha is something like atmosphere. Like we all have aura. It is said that at least the aura extends by 6 inches around our embodiment. And there are cameras which can take photograph of your auras. There is photography which can take photograph of one's aura. So there is something like aura. Kosha is something like aura. Annamaya Atma, aura of Annamaya. That is Annamaya Kosha. Similar is the case of Pranamaya Atma and its aura. That is the kosha. So these are the 5 koshas. And the pranayam needs to work on Annamaya and Pranamaya kosha. If pranayama is just deemed as breathing, it's not going to go beyond Annamaya. It is not even going to encompass the whole of the Annamaya. If you just consider respiratory breathing in your pranayama, it's not going to work. It is not going to be pranayama. It must reach pranamaya kosha. It must work on pranamaya kosha. It must work from pranamaya kosha. Therefore, prana kriyas are so important. Without prana kriya, there is no pranayama. As a matter of fact, without prana kriya, there is not even an essential asana. So let me tell you here for you to understand this. We are doing asanas as postures. If you do asanas as postures, we are merely dealing with body matter. Then pranayam, we are dealing with our breath, respiratory breath, in breath and out breath. And then we are dealing, if the mind is also included, we are including our psychological mind. We are not even including our tendency mind. We are only using our psychological mind, that you must become quiet, serene, sublime, psychologically, psychomentally, temporally, cerebrally. So this kind of yoga, which is in vogue today and which has swept the whole world, is something like G1 in modern technology. How many of you are still using G1 cell phones? We left the G1 far behind. Then we went to G2, G3, G4. Now we want to go to G4 and we are looking for G5. So what is G1 for us now? Or what you call as analog technology, juxtaposed to digital technology. Are we embracing analog when the digital is available? When the G4 is available, are we going for G1? So that kind of yoga, which is yoga in the modern world, is something akin to G1 technology, G1 in telecommunication. Physical, corporeal, postural yoga, asana as postures, and pranayama has something to do with the respiratory breathing, in breath, out breath, and retention of the breath. And then psychological mind, meditation of the mind, quiet mind, serene mind, sublime mind. All this mind is surface mind, psychological mind, temporal mind, cerebral mind. That is why even after our yoga, this yoga that we have been initiated in the modern world, we are back to square one after every session. It's like dog's tail. We do our yoga, it is like keeping the dog's tail straight for a while. You leave the grip over the tail, what will happen to the tail? That's what happens to us in our yoga. It is so ephemeral because we are dealing with something corporeal body, psychological mind, respiratory breath. So this is something akin to G1 technology. Who is still in G1 technology? who is using G1 cell phones today. So, even after 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of pursuit in yoga, if we stick to that G1, we are not going to go anywhere. Therefore, this education about yoga is so important. So the Pranamaya Kosha should be circumscribed. And therefore, we must understand the Pranamaya Kosha, which is containing the whole body of tendencies, which I told you 6 aspects there, starting from Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipuraka, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Agnya. So the Prana Kriya becomes paramount in asana and even in pranayama. So we know various asanas. Today we have classification: standing poses, sitting poses, prone poses, supine poses, upright poses, lateral bending poses, etc. We have classified asanas like that. We need to enhance, upgrade our technologies, and we must go for prana kriyas. There is something called as Prithvi postures. All postures can be done on Prithvi. All postures can be done on Prithvi Tattva. All pranayamas can be done on Prithvi Tattva. All asanas can be done on Ap Tattva. All pranayamas can be done with Ap Tattva. So there are these Panchatattvas. And the Panchatattvas have the Bija mantras Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum for 5 elements. The locus of element of earth is in Mooladhara. Locus of Up is in Swadhisthana. Locus of Tej is in Manipuraka. Locus of Vayu is in Anahata. And locus of space, ether, is in Agnya. So Lam, Mooladhara region, not for the chakra, for element. Vam, Swadhisthana chakra as the locus of element of water. Ram for Manipuraka chakra as locus of element of fire. Yam as Bija mantra for element of air, which has locus in Anahata. Then Vishuddhi. Hum, Akasha, Vishuddhi as the locus. And in Agnya, it is transcendent. And the Om is the Bija mantra. So Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum for elements, transcendent, Om, Agnya chakra. So we need to know this aspect of Pranamaya Kosha. The pranayam must be done with reference to these Tattva Kriyas. Asanas too, Yogasanas too need to be done with reference to Chakra Kriyas. And then Tattva Kriyas as well. Because the chakras have 4, 6, 10, 12, 16 and 2 petals, numbering to 50 totally. So those are 50 letters. So there are Chakra Kriyas. So in what you call the authentic generation of yoga, what we do, yoga is not authentic generation. We are trying to do something, fashioning the alphabets. So when you are fashioning the alphabet on the slate, you are not really, you can't say you are learning a language. It's just fashioning alphabets. There is huge structure after fashioning alphabets. So we are all fashioning alphabets, and we are doing it for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years even. Where is the scope for us to evolve? If you are not leaving the embrace to that and embark upon high tech, next grade of it, next generation of it. So like in technology, you have G1, G2, G3, G4. Similarly in yoga, we'll have to come out of this that doing asanas as postures for body matter, doing pranayam for breath matter, and then doing dhyana for mind matter. We need to circumscribe the kosha aspects, pranamaya and manomaya. Therefore, there is technology in yoga. We don't deal with just in-breath and out-breath. There is Prithvi in-breath. You can understand characteristic difference between the Prithvi in-breath and up in-breath and Tej in-breath, Vayu in-breath and Akash in-breath, and then Om in-breath. Similarly, exhalation, out-breath, Prithvi, out-breath of up, out-breath of Tej, out-breath of Vayu, out-breath of Akash, out-breath of Om. So, even yogasanas are yogasanas only when we embark upon prana kriyas and then later on to tattva kriyas and then chakra kriyas. Until that time, just doing an asana as a posture is not yogasana. We have to embark upon these kriyas to really access and solicit responses of pranamaya kosha. The prana kriya is so vital in yoga, and therefore enormous needs to be done with reference to pranamaya kosha, energy bodies. So also the pranayam is not just qualitative good breathing, quantitative good breathing. It is respiratory breathing. It's not going to circumscribe anything beyond the lungs. And what the lungs can do being most efficient. That's all you'll be able to strike. And that's why the pranayam is not shvasayam. Pranayam, the name has come, nomenclature is because of the pranamaya kosha. Now we as mortals, we will work on pranamaya kosha. But there are exalted yogis, they will be able to even contribute to manomaya kosha. Imagine practitioners like you and me, and yoga practitioners like Yajnavalkya, Gnaneshwar, Patanjali. What is the depth of their dynamics? So that will contribute to manomaya kosha in exalted way. That will also take something from manomaya kosha. So therefore the whole karma aspect can be reformed, addressed, managed by yogis, because they can work on pranamaya kosha, they can even work on manomaya kosha. We mortals will not be able to have this access and this depth in our dynamics. So that is why it is called pranayam, basically because of the pranamaya kosha. So to understand pranamaya kosha, I had to explain the whole set of 5 koshas. That is why we went to that subject matter, seemingly not relevant to us. But in education it is relevant. If somebody speaks of annamaya kosha, rather than merely anna, the anna dietitians will speak about. Annamaya kosha, dietitians won't speak. When annamaya kosha is referred to, you'll have to consider other koshas as well. That is imperative in educative process. That's why I touched upon 5 koshas, giving you very, very primary, preliminary, basic, just information about the kosha concept. And how the divinity is part of our embodiment. It is Annamayatma, Anandamayatma, Anandamaya Kosha, Anandamayatma. So in Brahma Vidya, Anandamayatma is worshipped, or Upasana, what is called as Upasana. Therefore, there is a Brahma Sutra called Anandamaya Upasana. That is means for liberation. Anandamayopasit is a sutra in Brahma Sutra. So that is means for liberation. Anyway, that doesn't come in our itinerary. So I will not say much about it. But somehow I have tried to put across very basic, very fundamental information about Panchakoshas. And then with that, we will be ending this session to now proceed to understand little more about pranayama, because pranayama is a major pursuit. This is an incidental topic which came in. Because it is pranayama, not shvasayam, I had to point out pranamaya kosha. To point out pranamaya kosha, I have to point out all the 5 koshas. So incidentally, we had to embark upon Panchakosha information. Now we will proceed to understand little more about pranayama in the session to come, the next session. So enough for the time being. Namaskar.